In the Impact segment tonight, some very provocative comments from Secretary of State John Kerry. Yesterday, he was asked about how people overseas are viewing the presidential race.
Everywhere I go, every leader I meet, they ask about what is happening in America. They cannot believe it. I think it is fair to say that they're shocked. They don't know where it's taking the United States of America. It upsets people's sense of equilibrium about our steadiness, about our reliability. And to some degree, I must say to you, some of the questions, the way they're posed to me, it's clear to me that what's happening is an embarrassment to our country.
Joining us now with reaction from Washington, Fox News contributor Pete Snyder, and with me in studio, David DeFuria, former foreign policy advisor to the Obama presidential campaign. Pete, I'm going to start with you. When I heard embarrassment, is that what he just said? He said some of the questions on the GOP side are an embarrassment to the country?
Eric, this is unbelievable. This is coming from a guy, John Kerry, whose main response to the Paris attacks was to fly James Taylor over to serenade the French people. I mean, this is a joke, an absolute joke. His main accomplishment while he's been Secretary of State was to give back over $1 billion to the Iranians so that they can fund more terrorist programs. And he even later on, after they railroaded that deal through, said that many of those dollars are going to go to terrorist activities. It's preposterous.
All right, Dave, you know what was embarrassing to me? And look, I understand presidents have to do travel and whatnot. President Obama sitting at a baseball game as they're literally mopping up the blood on the terminal of the Brussels airport and in the subway station. And then the very next day doing the tango in Argentina. That would be more embarrassing than I think than what's going on the GOP side.
Look, President Obama was on a historic trip to Cuba and to Argentina. Those events were planned long before. That was part of the diplomatic effort by President Obama.
You can't stop. You can't say, look, by the way, there were 9 Americans missing at the time. Turned out some of them end up perishing in those attacks. You can't say, hold on, I'm not going to do the wave with you, Raul. I'm sorry. Well, let's just bypass this baseball game?
The president made a very strong statement about it. He said we need to react very strongly, and the U.S. is reacting very strongly. The president can't interrupt his diplomatic trips because something happens abroad. There's a bombing somewhere every day. There was a bombing a couple days ago in Iraq.
Americans were missing, David. Americans were missing.
Of course, there were Americans missing because of attacks all the time as well. This president has to continue his foreign policy across the world. It can't be a singular foreign policy focused on one thing. The Brussels attacks were very, very serious, and the president is responding to them with a law enforcement angle and with a strategy to attack ISIS where it's headquartered in Raqqa.
Okay. Let me bring Pete in here. Pete, maybe I'm being unreasonable. Maybe I shouldn't be so hard on the president, but John Kerry's the one who 2 days after all the activities that David points out that the president was involved in said the GOP is embarrassing.
Eric, you're not wrong at all. This president only cares about his own interests, right? He wants to be the one to make this historic trip to Cuba. He's wearing his $500 sunglasses and blowing off the rest of the world as he does the wave with dictators. I mean, this is absolutely wrong. He's never cared for the optics of the presidency. He's never understood the optics of the presidency. And, the rest of the world's burning under his watch.
David, we have the most powerful nation on the planet. We have a wonderful government that invariably created more wealth and prosperity than any other country in the history of the world. What's embarrassing about America?
There's nothing embarrassing about America. We agree on that. America should be leading the world. And that's why Secretary is so exasperated. That's why you see in his statement exasperation, because if you travel around the world, as I do, you meet people all the time.
Are you embarrassed by the GOP? Are you embarrassed by the GOP has the House and the Senate.
I am perplexed by the fact that the GOP cannot bring forth a nominee who can explain a lucid strategy for foreign policy. None of Donald Trump's foreign policy makes any sense at all. Look at his plan to fight ISIS. 2 of the things he wants to do to fight ISIS would actually help ISIS, and one of them is something we're already doing. He wants to turn off the internet for ISIS, but ISIS is trying to turn off the internet to prevent the people in the areas that it controls from getting access to information. He wants to do things like...
I got to leave it there, guys. I ran out of time. I apologize, David. Thank you, Pete and David. Thank you very much.